In 1970, when Susan Dey, a 17-year-old former model, was cast as Lori Partridge on The Partridge Family, she quickly became a household name. Despite her limited acting experience, Dey's natural beauty and screen presence made her a star, and her portrayal of Lori as the ideal daughter made her a beloved figure. She quickly became America's sweetheart, admired by teenage girls and adored by parents for her wholesome image. The show, which followed a traveling musical family, became a massive hit, with Dey's face plastered on magazines, posters, and products. Her rise to fame seemed like a dream come true, but beneath the surface, things were far from perfect. As the fame grew, so did the pressures that came with it. The role of Lori Partridge, though iconic, was not a reflection of Dey's true self. The expectation to maintain this public image was overwhelming, and the reality of fame quickly became more challenging than it appeared on the show. Behind the cheerful family dynamics on screen, there were personal struggles and tensions that simmered beneath the surface, with the media's intense scrutiny only adding to the pressure. The cast, especially the young stars, dealt with the overwhelming expectations of being perfect public figures. David Cassidy, who played her brother on the show, was also experiencing the pressures of fame. He later claimed that there were no major issues between the cast members, emphasizing his close relationships with everyone, including Dey. However, the challenges of growing up in the spotlight were real for both of them. The cast members, particularly Dey, faced the struggle of managing typical teenage emotions in an environment where their every move was under public scrutiny. Despite their on-screen bond, Dey admitted that the pressures of the show sometimes made it difficult to form real, lasting relationships with her co-stars. As the show's success grew, so did the personal differences among the cast members, especially between Dey and Cassidy. Their personalities clashed. Cassidy was outgoing and extroverted, while Dey was more introspective and reserved. As Dey grew more exhausted by the pressures of the public's expectations of her, cracks in her relationship with Cassidy began to show. Though their on-screen chemistry remained strong, off-screen tensions became more evident, though never publicly acknowledged at the time. The fame that Susan Dey achieved through the Partridge Family came at a significant personal cost. The role of Lori Partridge overshadowed her true self, and as the years passed, Dey's feelings for David Cassidy evolved in ways she couldn't fully grasp at the time. What began as a simple crush grew into something much deeper, complicated by the pressures of growing up in front of the public eye. Despite Cassidy's constant attention from fans, Dey found herself growing closer to him, sharing private moments and jokes between takes. The emotional connection between them went beyond their on-screen relationship, but Cassidy, aware of his status as a heartthrob, kept Dey at a distance. While Dey tried to keep her emotions in check, she couldn't deny that she was drawn to Cassidy. However, he remained emotionally distant, keeping their relationship strictly platonic. It wasn't a direct rejection, but rather an unspoken understanding that their relationship would not evolve into anything more. Over the years, Dey's feelings remained unresolved and hidden, buried beneath the pressures of fame and the public's expectations. Dey channeled her heartache into her performances, maintaining the poised, composed persona that her fans expected. But internally, she struggled with the complexities of unrequited love, a quiet pain that remained unaddressed. Her relationship with David Cassidy, though never fully realized, defined much of Susan Dey's early adult life. It was a bond filled with longing, but never truly returned. As time went on and the Partridge Family faded into nostalgic history, Dey tried to distance herself from the pressure of being eternally linked to the role of Lori Partridge. She buried her feelings for Cassidy, though the secret heartache never fully disappeared. As the years passed, the cast of the Partridge Family moved on to new endeavors. For Dey, this meant carving out a successful career away from the shadow of Lori Partridge. She found acclaim in more serious roles, particularly in television and film, where she was able to prove her versatility as an actress. Meanwhile, Cassidy struggled to escape the legacy of his teen idol status, despite his attempts to move forward. In 2007, he published his autobiography, Could It Be Forever?, where he recounted his rise to fame and shared intimate details about his relationships with co-stars, including Day. One of the most shocking revelations in Cassidy's book was his admission that he and Day had spent a night together during their time on the Partridge Family. Cassidy described the encounter vaguely, presenting it as a brief moment in their past, but for Susan, this revelation felt like a betrayal. The trust she had once placed in him was shattered by his casual disclosure of something she had kept private. Cassidy's words would forever alter the course of their relationship, and for Day, it felt like a violation of the emotional bond they had shared. Susan Day spent decades trying to distance herself from the Partridge Family and the emotional scars of her early fame. After leaving the show, she worked hard to build a life outside of her role as Lori Partridge. But when David Cassidy's autobiography revealed details of their past, including a private moment they shared, it forced a part of her life into the public eye. Cassidy's casual recounting of their night together felt like a betrayal. It wasn't an apology, but a salacious detail that added to his narrative for the sake of nostalgia. For Susan, this wasn't just a breach of privacy, it was a painful violation of a chapter in her life she had hoped to keep private. She never publicly responded to Cassidy's revelation, nor did she try to correct the narrative that was now being formed around it. Her decision to avoid interviews and reunions made her stance clear. She could never go back to a friendship with David Cassidy. The wound, once buried, was exposed to the world, and it could never be healed. After the show ended in 1974, Susan found herself at a crossroads. Though she was still widely recognized as Lori Partridge, she was determined to prove she was more than just a one-dimensional TV star. She sought roles that would allow her to be seen as a serious actress. Her breakthrough came in the mid-1980s with her role as Grace Van Owen on LA Law, a legal drama that showcased her in a completely different light. Grace was a sophisticated attorney, and Susan's portrayal earned her critical acclaim, including a Golden Globe, marking a pivotal moment in her career. As nostalgia for the Partridge Family reached its peak in the 1990s, the absence of Susan Day from reunion talks became even more noticeable. VH1 and other networks eagerly pursued the idea of bringing the cast back together, and fans clamored for a reunion. The remaining cast members were available, but Susan remained silent. She refused to participate in interviews or acknowledge the nostalgia-driven efforts. For Susan, the Partridge Family was more than just a show. It was a chapter of her life that shaped her in both positive and painful ways. Her silence was a way to reclaim control over a narrative that had long been dictated by others. It wasn't about avoiding the past. It was about preserving her dignity, privacy, and mental peace. The true reason behind Susan's refusal to participate in any reunion was more complicated than many realized. Insiders close to the production whispered that her absence had everything to do with David Cassidy. Though many assumed her silence was a personal choice, it was rooted in the betrayal she felt from Cassidy. The wound that had been buried for years was reopened by the publication of Cassidy's autobiography, where he revealed their brief encounter. For Susan, this moment wasn't just about a failed romance. It was a breach of trust. The real pain wasn't in the night they spent together. It was in how Cassidy trivialized it, turning it into a piece of gossip for his readers. This private part of Susan's life was exposed, stripped of its emotional context, and shared without her consent. Cassidy didn't apologize for the pain he caused, and Susan was left to face the public's curiosity about a moment she had hoped to keep hidden. By refusing to participate in the reunion, Susan made a statement of integrity. For her, participating in a Partridge Family reunion would have been an act of hypocrisy, forcing her to pretend that everything between her and Cassidy was fine when, in reality, the broken trust between them was irreparable. This wasn't about avoiding the past. It was about honoring the truth and maintaining her dignity. While it was a difficult decision, it allowed Susan to maintain control over her own narrative. When David Cassidy passed away in 2017, The public mourned the loss of the beloved teen idol, and tributes poured in from around the world. But amid the outpouring of grief, Susan's silence stood as a stark contrast. It wasn't an oversight or the result of lingering animosity. It was a deliberate choice. She chose to grieve privately, without the need to perform her mourning for anyone, especially when it was tied to a past that had caused her so much pain. As reunion efforts continued, Susan remained steadfast in her absence. While other cast members embraced the nostalgia, she chose not to revisit a chapter in her life that had never fully healed. Her absence wasn't a rejection of her fans or the love they had shown her. It was a powerful statement about the importance of personal peace and setting boundaries. Some things, for Susan, were better left in the past. Susan Day's refusal to participate in reunions and interviews wasn't about denying her past, but affirming that some stories, some memories, and some wounds are too painful to revisit. Her lesson to us is clear. Sometimes, the best way to heal is to leave the past where it belongs, behind closed doors, tucked away in the quiet corners of our lives. This situation raises an important question. Have you ever had a personal secret or vulnerable moment exposed? How would you have felt if it had been shared publicly? It's a powerful reminder of the value of trust and privacy in our relationships. Do you agree with Susan's choice to avoid reunions, or do you think she should have embraced the nostalgia with the fans? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more insightful content. Thanks for watching.